We want to use this incredibly powerful tool and technology that is story, not toward grabbing attention and then selling it off to shampoo companies, but to take that attention and deploy it, channelize it toward progressive human change.
We're going to move straight into the last conversation of the evening, and that's going to be another firecracker, because the person we have today is literally India's certified living polymath. Anand Gandhi is a filmmaker, but he's a philosopher. He's someone who's interested in science, in art, and music. And the project that he and Zain Memon, through their company, have created is truly an entire new infrastructure for the 21st century. We've been listening to the most unusual ideas, that you can train yourself for compassion, train yourself for insight, for empathy, that your mind is a muscle. Now the third dimension of this is that we don't think of stories as infrastructure. But if you take a step back, you'll realize that stories are literally the infrastructure of a society and of the idea of being human. And our stories have become denuded of power. So we really do need new stories to infuse society and imagination again in a way that will allow us to live more robustly in the 21st century. That is the enterprise, the gigantic, gargantuan, audacious enterprise that Anand Gandhi and Zain Memon have embarked on. They've created a new epic world called Maya. It cuts across 6 continents. It is truly ambitious. They've got creators from across the world collaborating on it. It overturns many, many certitudes, to speak of what Vivek was speaking about. It overturns the certitudes of IP creation, of creativity, and creates something truly new. The first edition of this, Maya, the book, A Seed Takes Root, written by Anand Gandhi, is now being published. This is the global launch for the book. There are people across the world, from James Cameron and others, who are saluting their work. One hopes that this will really become something that will become transcontinental, transcultural, and it's a real honor to get a peep into the thinking and philosophy that is driving this ambitious project. To understand that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Anand Gandhi on stage.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Anand, and thank you for this imagination, first up,
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Shoma.
So absolutely at the beginning, Anand, is, what provoked this idea? What shifted in our world, in your interaction with the world, that this idea of creating such a difficult, such an ambitious project was born? First of all, do share with the audience whose voice that is.
Oh, that is Hugo Weaving. We just finished recording the entire audiobook with Agent Smith from The Matrix, Elrond from Lord of the Rings, V for Vendetta, one of the greatest actors on the planet, just a sheer joy and a great learning experience. I was telling my team, I've worked with such great collaborators all my life and been so fortunate. And I didn't know that there were still any surprises left, and working with Hugo was so surprising. I just learned a completely new way of looking at things, doing things.
It's really apt that Agent Smith of Matrix should be doing this.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Okay, so what had shifted that made you really want to create this?
I wanted to quantify the function of story and narrative in our world. We know this forever. We can take large zoomed out snapshots, and we can say 25 years ago a man told his part of the world a story. He said, across the oceans lives a really bad, evil man who has horrible weapons and the intention to and the will to use it against us. Trillions of dollars, millions of lives lost later, oops, no weapons of mass destruction were discovered. So the real weapon of mass destruction in this particular event that all of us were witness to for so many years was the story that was told. So there is sufficient evidence that stories have shaped our lives for thousands of years. We really wanted to see if there is a way to, if there is any quantifiable evidence that stories can impact our beliefs and behaviors, and there is a way uh, to engineer that. And when we started looking at it, we realized that, uh, we are childish even, we are naive even to ask such a question, because that's the kind of thing that's going on all the time. That's really the foundation of all human enterprise. We look around us and we realize that we are so vulnerable to narrative hacks. We are so open and we are so easy to be transformed and manicured and manipulated and our ideas and will manufactured by narrative that it's really the cornerstone of all human cognition and behavior. So what we learned very quickly is that it's being used by Trumps and major politicians of the world. It's been used by Zuckerbergs of the world, and often used for short-term quarter, spreadsheets. It's not used toward. We're really using a nuclear reactor to serve coffee, to make coffee. And we have the most powerful tool at our disposal as a species, which is story. It has shaped democracies. If you think of anything that we use, any political technology that we use, all of it, civilization is a piece of technology. It's something that we build on top of nature. And any political philosophy we currently deploy in our life, policies that we use, the way we behave with each other, our behavior itself, all of these are born of story. And we felt that there is just so much evidence that stories can be deployed toward creating very clear, predictable, quantifiable, positive impact in the world. And it's just a forgotten craft. We have seen thousands of years of work being done in it. We have seen mythologies of the past, large-scale religious worldviews and frameworks of the past, nudging human beliefs and behaviors for thousands of years with very, very easily quantifiable impact and evidence. And we have just forgotten how to do it. And for the last couple of decades, like as I was growing up as a storyteller, I would always find myself in forums of storytellers who would be talking about hacks of structural hacks and architectural hacks of if you put the hero's journey in this method, if you have like anxiety, if you cause anxiety in the audience and then reward the audience with something beautiful happening with the hero, you have an ordeal, hero's mother is dying and suddenly something amazing happens, you would engage human attention. You would see writer forums talking endlessly about methods and of hacking into human attention. But what has happened, and that's not two people deciding that this should happen, it just happened through the nature of free market and economics. What has happened is you have these people who are incredibly capable of seducing everyone down to the town square. Authors, actors, performers, jugglers and clowns, incredibly capable of seducing all of us to the town square. Now we gathered to the town square. What they don't know anymore is what to do with this attention that they've gathered. So they take all this attention, pack it together and sell it to cola companies to sell more shampoo to us. So that's the problem we identified. We said we want to answer your question, we said we want to change that. We want to use this incredibly powerful tool and technology that is story, not toward grabbing attention and then selling it off to shampoo companies, but to take that attention and deploy it, channelize it toward progressive human change.
You know what I find fascinating about what you're doing, Anand, is not even one, story, our attention is no longer only sold to shampoo companies. It is being deployed as a nuclear bomb, as you said earlier, Our attention is being weaponized, and it's being weaponized against ourselves as well as against each other. But I think what's really always attracted me about your project is not just that you're constructing a whole new framework of a story, but that you're making it visible of what is being done to us. We talk about algorithms, we talk about Mark Zuckerberg, we talk about what Trump is doing, but I don't think it's become visible to us that we are being moved around like pawns on a chessboard without us being aware of it, so that cognizance is something that you really are creating. And I wanted to share with the audience how you are completely upturning many of the concepts that have driven us all these years, So like I want to share with the audience that all of us watch the Marvel universe, the superheroes, the concepts that have driven, like he was saying, storytelling largely received also from the Western world. And all concepts of superhero films, there's a very clear good and evil. And inevitably, the denouement or the end is achieved through muscular power, Even Superman or somebody will like cram somebody else into submission. So it's good and evil and might as the tool of victory. You are completely changing this, Anand. So do talk about that. First, the elevator line on what Seed Takes Root is about and how you're changing this idea of good and evil.
So Seed Takes Root looks at a world. It creates a world. Imagine a world that's ruled by Facebooks and Microsofts of the world. It's not so hard to imagine such a world. And the trillionaires of this world, the Bezos and Musks of this world, are not only wealthy trillionaires, but they are also worshipped as living gods. They are imperceptibly in charge, making everyone's choices. Their intention imperceptibly is being designed and engineered to become every last individual's will. So everything from birth to education to death is being nudged and quietly pushed down from the top through narrative engineering. And in such a world, there exists one individual whose data is not available to any of them, who's by the virtue of never being online. And he's really the only individual who has never been online on this planet. Being online is mandatory, even though it never needs to be legally enforced. Everyone does it out of their own will because being online is wonderful. It's absolutely beautiful. People can do all kinds of wonderful things by being online. There is one individual who has never been online, and by the virtue of never being online, his data is not available to any of them. He becomes a seed of chaos. He's a young farm boy who doesn't know that he's the chosen one. And he's being thrown into in the midst of this ancient revolution against the narrative authority of the world. So new narrators come about to create new narratives, and that's really the framework within which the story operates. What we really wanted to do, Shoma, like you, and thank you for asking that question, is that we realized that in a world that is as polarized as ours, in a world where we have still not been able to get rid of our very base Stone Age instincts that are detrimental to our collective well-being as a civilization, in a world where we are still warring, in a world where we are still killing each other.
And just so us and them, like everything is a binary.
Exactly.
We are good, others are evil.
In fact, it's being engineered and perpetuated by this notion of the self and the other that would have been useful in forest and savanna environments, in the environments of profound scarcity, where you are just one group living in a cave or in a forest, and any other group approaching is most likely dangerous for the well-being of your community and your kin. And hence gossip or rumor or stories that teach you tricks of conquest, revenge. Revenge is basically putting out deterrent warnings to the other, so that the other is always scared of you, so that they don't come and attack you, and so on and so forth. The stories of making more progeny, hence stories of courtship and romance and stories that will lead to eventual sex and hence eventually to progeny creation.
Not to confuse the audience, sticking with the
So stories of sex and violence are rewarded by the human brain. We are hardwired evolutionarily to reward, to feel good, to feel happy when we engage with stories of sex and violence. And stories of violence invariably involve the self, the kin, and the other, the outsider. We continue to use the same biological infrastructure that we developed in forest and savanna environments, and hence our brains still reward stories of conquest, violence, and revenge. The problem in front of us as a species is no longer killing the other. There is no other. We are all together in this large ecosystem, this massive 8 billion ecology that we have created, that we've invented, which is what we call the civilization. We don't live in Jungle Raj, we live in a civilized world. So the problem is no longer the other. The problem in front of us is also not to make more babies because, the most urgent problem at least is not to make more babies. There are 8 billion of us. So the problems that we face today are problems that forests and savanna environments for 4 billion years never had to encounter. Problems of climate change, problems of cultural vulnerability, like stories being able to change our behaviors, problems of inequity, which is really, for me, the most crucial problem that we ought to be solving today. The fact that we can grow food in space and can't feed 2 billion human beings should astound everyone every day, and we take it for granted because we are not hardwired to kind of reward and privilege that problem. So we think that all previous frameworks of sex and violence, of good and evil, need to be reframed in the light of a new problem, a new major conflict, and that is haves versus have-nots. The fact that there are some of us who have, all of us over here are the ones who come in the category of haves mostly, and then there are many, many others who don't have the dignity, opportunity, excess that we have and we take for granted very often. And none of us are evil. I don't think there is anyone in this audience who's absolutely cognitively aware of perpetuating any evil or even identifies themselves as an evil person. I'm pretty sure there is a large percentage over here, if we were to do a survey, of people who believe that they are fundamentally good people. So then where is evil coming from? And the abstraction of older myths that evil is inside you, good is inside you, all conflicts are inside you, are no longer useful because we are living in a world that is real. Poverty is real. Violence is real. We need to solve it. Climate crisis is real. These are not things that are happening inside you. These are not psychological, spiritual problems to solve sitting under a tree and by being rich and sitting under a tree, that too, like sitting in an air-conditioned tree. No, this is a problem that we have to collectively get together and form policies, and policies will be shaped by the stories we tell.
So, Anand, when of course these are the things, but when you put it like that, it can come across as the sociology textbook of how to be good, right? And I know right through the evening I've been trying to make all of you actually present yourself in your glorious feathers, which is that you're not really being didactic. This is a mesmerizing, dramatic, it's an entertaining world because you are trying to use story also to change behavior in a different way. So you're trying to create consciousness of the fact that we are being manipulated. So that's what I was saying, that when you don't have this good and evil in your universe, when I was reading your book, what struck me was that, and it's a beautiful phrase you have used actually, where you say that all of these systems are at war with each other. And each of the systems internally have a logic where it makes total sense. Everybody, like you said, everybody thinks of themselves as good. Trump today genuinely thinks he's doing great for America, or I won't say genuinely is a wrong word, but let's say his story is that he's doing good work for America. So internally there's a logic, but there are systems that are at war with each other, and that there is no good and evil. Like one of your characters has a dilemma of whether to assassinate a child or save his own, So you are creating these very complex moral dilemmas. That's what I was asking you to talk to the audience.
Oh, sorry, yes, of course, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, like when I speak about the ideas behind the stories and not the stories themselves.
No, not the stories, but the ideas are not didactic ideas.
No, of course not. I mean, they are experienced through extremely, and a very rich infrastructure of myth and fable. Metaphor, again, is an incredibly powerful tool for us to imagine things. An actor walks up on stage in 15th century London and declares Juliet is the sun, and the author is absolutely confident that a room full of people who have never heard a sonnet, don't know how to read or write, will not misunderstand the intended meaning, and it will still telegraph the idea that Juliet is this young woman who's radiant and full of life and inspiring for me, as the sun is. So similarly, what we have done is we have created everything that you see over here. So when I talk about Microsoft and when I talk about Elon Musk or characters like that, that's what they look like in my world. And the challenges that they face are, of course, I mean, when I talk about when we spoke about the internet of this world is literally a biological network of trees.
That's sentient trees.
There are sentient trees called Maya. That is a stand-in for both internet and AI. and the world is extremely epic and beautiful and thrilling and enthralling and riveting, hopefully. And all the characters
Don't
have
look at your
dilemmas.
screen, look at the audience. What kind of storyteller looks at the screen?
Yeah, I'm just making sure that this guy, yeah. Like,
No,
not in,
don't
like,
look
deep
at the
context.
screen.
Yeah,
The
okay,
screen is
awesome.
showing what it needs to. Please engage our audience.
Right. Okay, I'll throw a question at the audience. Okay, this is a question that one of the characters asks someone within the story. There is a word for murdering another individual, ripping off its cellular infrastructure, and replacing its genetic code with your own. What's the word? This is a word that we use all the time. It's not a, I mean, it's a very specific word that means sorry?
Sorry? Cloning.
Cloning. Okay, I'll say this again. There's a word for murdering another individual. Exactly.
Wow,
Thank you.
who got
Eating.
that?
Who got that, by the way?
Oh, you read it. So much honesty is not good, you know.
So what is that? Sorry.
She said she read it on the
Oh,
screen.
she read it on the screen. Okay. Eating, right? We just take that word for granted, like eating. There is no individual life on this planet that, with the exception of photosynthesizing plants and chemosynthesizing insects, of course, most life forms on this planet survive by daily or almost daily engaging in this activity of murdering another individual, ripping off its cellular infrastructure, replacing its genetic code with its own, which is what we casually call eating. I mean, that's 4 billion years ago, accidentally, probably, one life form did that to another, and that created an arms race of violence. The beauty of nature that we talk about, the diversity of nature that we talk about. When we talk about, oh, I love walking through, it just makes me so peaceful to walk through nature, to walk through the woods, and to hear the chirping of plants, the chirping of bees and birds and animals. You are essentially hearing most of these animals and birds talking about who to kill, when to kill, planning, strategizing, how to kill. There was a shift that happened over the last 15,000 years, roughly 15,000 years ago, 13,000 years ago. Our species was the first species that had an incredibly powerful ability to foresee into the future. We were talking about insight. We have this incredible ability as a species, and that is to foresee. We have foresight. The fuel of foresight is hindsight, and the engine is insight, right? So hindsight is all the data that we collect. Insight is when we apply relationships between data, when we start recognizing patterns, things that recur again and again, and we start recognizing what comes when and what causes what. So we start recognizing that, that's insight. And then we apply insight to hindsight, and we can foresee, we can predict to higher and higher degrees of accuracy what life is going to look like. What stories allow us to do is simulate all kinds of futures in a language that does not scare us. Because we are again hardwired to reward that language. We are hardwired to reward metaphor and allegory. So what we've done is, sorry, again, I'm going into philosophy textbooks, but I mean, that's unfortunately, Shoma, when I talk about
that's why we've invited you, it's okay.
But essentially what we've done is we've learned from the myths of the past. We've learned how they've informed our minds over hundreds of years. I mean, we did all of this simultaneously, academically also, and we did this intuitively also. We created great stories, we created great images. Okay, let me tell you about Maya. Sorry, before I kind of digress into too much philosophy about why we are doing it, let me tell you a little bit about what Maya is. So Maya is a narrative universe, much like the narrative universes that we have all experienced and love our entire lives. From Itihasas to mythologies, from Mahabharata, Ramayana, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Star Wars, Avatar, Simpsons, yeah. So we have all kinds of narrative universes that we have experienced and enjoyed for decades and centuries. We learned from these, and we said, let's kind of let's retain what works. Let's retain the seduction. Let's retain the structures and the infrastructure that seduces people into it, but change change the message completely. The message more or less have been similar. All the messages have been similar. And that's where we said, let's change the messages. Once we have brought people into the town square, once we have seduced them with all these beautiful creatures that we have created. So we went ahead and created the whole world. And we wanted the world to be really consistent. So we got geologists and evolutionary biologists and architects and all kinds of, 200 people working on the project so far. None of this, what you're seeing is AI based. It's all created by some of the greatest concept artists on the planet, some of the greatest artists on the planet, and we got them together to create a world that's consistent. And now this is becoming films, games, graphic novels, all kinds of experiences. Sorry.
But Anand, what I was trying to ask was the concepts that you have overturned from the habitual epics and superhero stories, you know. So for me, what my source of excitement, if I were to share with the audience, not just about the book, but your way of thinking. One, as I said, that your world is not divided into simple good and evil. It's very complex. So, you know, it helps actually those who read your books or play your games to step out of the polarizing, simplistic black and white in which we all live our lives, you know. So to that, I think, is something, and the fact that you make that fascinating, it retrains our brain, you know. So that's one very exciting thing. The second, as I was saying, is that we've always had this kind of know-all God, you know, and that it's a one individual's journey. Whereas your world, and that's what I wanted you to talk to the audience about, are systems that are in conflict. And this understanding that the system makes sense to itself, you know, or the fact that your resistance, again, in most epics, there's always war, there's always resistance, is an eruption of violence, you know, it's good versus evil, even in the Ramayana or Mahabharata. Here, your resistance is very quiet. It's knowledge, it's comprehension is resistance, you know. And I think that's a very powerful idea. So do talk to, last point to chat with the audience, is this idea of how does comprehension become resistance?
Absolutely.
Awareness.
There is a scene in the story where there is a Garuda and a Rakshasi, and the Garuda asks the Rakshasi, instead of a Rakshasa, we have Rakshasis, and we can talk about the species later, but the Garuda asks the Rakshasi of a straight-up question. The Rakshasi very openly, happily shares her knowledge with the Garuda. And then the narrator of the story notes that Garudas would never share knowledge so easily because knowledge was everything. Rakshasis would give up knowledge immediately when asked a question because knowledge was everything. And there is another moment in the story where the hero comes in conflict, in direct conflict. The hero of this story, of Seed Takes Root, comes in direct physical conflict with the police force, with the local police force, which is the Vanaras of that space. At the end of the conflict, both sides injure each other profoundly. And the hero and the hero's grandfather, who is one of the most important characters of the story, they're both severely injured. But instead of spending time with the hero and the hero's grandfather, we immediately suddenly switch and spend time with one of the young Vanara soldiers, who's just completely broken that he has been injured so badly for just doing his job, for doing the right thing. And there are these terrorists who just came and attacked them from nowhere. And now he would look so damaged when he has to show up for his sister's wedding 2 weeks from now. So we suddenly switch perspective and we realize that, oh my, here's a young Vanar soldier who we saw as the antagonist. I mean, this is usually the character, like I grew up watching films where the hero's forces will go and kill everyone. And every time somebody dropped dead, I used to always wonder, who is that guy? He has family. Surely he was absolutely convinced that he was on the right side. What was his story? And that's what we have done again and again and again in Maya. Every time somebody is as much as even injured, or somebody is as much as even like portrayed as the villain or the monster, we immediately switch perspective, or we switch perspective in another animation, another film, another game. That's the other thing that Maya does. It operates at a meta level also. So the tertiary villain of Seed Takes Root is the hero of the graphic novel and the animation series, which is only read by people who, I mean, it doesn't ask you to be read. You know, if you read Seed Takes Root, if you watch the film, you would fully enjoy and thoroughly enjoy all the experiences that we want to give you. But if you were to also read the graphic novel, you'd suddenly have this meta awareness that, wait a minute, this person that was so deeply hated turns out to be an incredibly incredibly justified person. Much like the renditions of Mahabharata and Ramayana that we've seen for again centuries, but all brought together in this one canonical framework.
That's such a breakthrough idea, Anand. I'm not sure, how many actually grasp, one, the courage to do that, and then the sheer breakthroughness of doing that at this scale. And like I was saying, that, again, Anand has opened it up, that they're not even like being proprietorial about this, but like it's a sandbox in which they're inviting many creators from many cultures to participate in it. So it's really kind of, opening up the engine of storytelling in a completely different way. Also, and here I'm making a personal pitch, that this kind of an audacious project is coming out of India, and they're doing it on a budget which does not compare with international budgets, but it has the ambition of international budgets. So, like Matthew said earlier, that if we are talking about India standing up for India, this is the kind of projects that really deserves investment, participation, support, jungle drums, opening Rolodexes, telling each other about it, because it is trying to shift the way we perceive the world and interact with the world. So
thank you so much,
I'm
Shoma,
making
for
a
doing
big
this.
plug for you.
So nice of you to do
One
this.
absolutely last question, and I think that again is very pertinent to the audience and is that you have a concept of tethering to the sentient trees. And that's what I began by saying, that your book is creating comprehension and awareness, knowledge about ourselves. We talk about the way algorithms are, manipulating us, but I don't think we're really aware of it or conscious of it. Your book has this concept of tethering, and how the Divya, which is the gods, then use that tethering for predictive and data manipulation. So do share that, and we'll end with that.
Oh, thank you so much for the call to action. The book launches 2 days from now on Kickstarter.com. If you just go to go.entermaya.com, thank you for allowing me to pitch that. It's entermaya.com, just simply entermaya.com. You'll be able to find everything that you want to know more. If you want to know more, it's very easy to find it. And thank you for asking that question, Shoma. The idea of tethering, again, comes from how much of ourselves we reveal to the social media frameworks and AI frameworks of the world today, and underestimate the ability that these algorithms have. I mean, we all know, all of us have experienced this, what we just shared in Hugo Weaving's voice in the trailer, that before you know it, there is like, you just experience this desire, and 2 days later an ad pops up and you go like, wait, how did that happen? I didn't even say this to anyone. I know that it listens to me all the time, but I had just thought of it, and how did it know that that's the thought that had occurred to my mind? What we don't necessarily know at that point is how common our experiences are. We think we have this idea that we are extremely we are sacrosanct individuals, like unlike anything in the world, and there are these patterns that we all fall into. That's what we wanted to kind of make intuitive, make visible, make intuitive. So every individual on this planet tethers, literally, physically, biologically connects to the tree. And when they do that, the tree induces dreams into them. They play games, they experience all kinds of stories and tales and fables, and they get a lot of work done also. So it's almost like AI-driven social media of this planet. And before they know it, everything works out for them. Before they know it, they start feeling suspicious about a neighbor who has been completely fine all these years, and suddenly one day the neighbor gets dragged away in the middle of the night, and they feel completely safe. They feel that the tree has taken care of them. So the idea was to make data visible, big data prediction visible, and the idea of nudge visible, that to make very, very large scale changes. There was again a bit about petite nudges a moment ago, and the idea that very small ideas, very small changes, very small narrative shifts need to be engineered. Just a series of WhatsApp messages can engineer can cascade into an entire revolution, can cascade into an entire policy shift, an entire behavioral shift for billions of people. That's the kind of thing that we wanted to make extremely visible and accessible for young people. I want that the next generation of young people who read this, who watch films within the Maya universe, are fully equipped to deal with a post-truth world, in a world where we have, for centuries, for billions of years for that matter, life has been dependent on seeing is believing. Everything from agreements to quote videos to everything that we have done till now, we've built an epistemology built on provenance and the ability to see and believe. That's completely gone now. We are in an epistemological dark age right now. So we really wanted to rebuild a new epistemology, a new way of understanding the world, which is extremely complex for the next generation, which is what we have done through tethering and all these metaphors and allegories that we have created. They're very intentional to equip an entire generation of young film watchers, game players, without realizing. We want them to be educated about how to measure truth, how to quantify truth, how to understand how their ideas and will and behaviors are being manipulated, how to discern truth from non-truth, how to discern good from bad. We just want to equip them. We don't want to prescribe what is good or bad, but we want to equip them with tools of discerning. And that's what we've done through metaphor.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Anand.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for trusting us with the launch of Maya, and more power to you. Thank you very much, everybody. The bar is open. Do join us outside. And thank you for being a wonderful audience.